Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to do a book haul. This is going to be a giant one. I believe I have over 30 books to talk about because I just checked. The last book haul I did on my channel was in December of 2024. So it has been about a little bit, exactly 5 months since I did a book haul. So these are all the books I received since my last book haul. So I hope you enjoy it. I have structured this book haul, so I'll leave timestamps for you down below, but I have a romance section and a not romance section. And within the romance section, I have romantasy slash paranormal books. And then within the other romance category are contemporary slash dark romances. If you're just interested in watching me haul romantasy, for example, then you can just skip to that. So let's get started. The first and biggest section is going to be the romantasy one. I've been really getting into romantasy lately. Ever since I did the most popular books of BookTube, I have been in a romantasy mood. I've been in my new releases. I also have tried to look at which romantasies are releasing, and I'm making a concerted effort to read those. So I am living my best life. So let's start with When the Moon Hatched. So technically this is already my second copy of this book and I have not read it, but I saw that they released this one with blue edges and with beautiful end paper. So I figured this book is getting so hyped. Let me just get this, and if I don't enjoy it, I'm sure I can sell it. I really thought that this was gonna make it into BookTube's favorite books, and technically it did, but not enough for me. Not enough people talked about this book in their favorites, so I didn't read it for that video, but I am planning on reading it whenever the sequel comes out, so maybe I'll read this and the sequel in the same video. So this has been getting a lot of hype in 2024. It's a dragon romantasy, of course. What's interesting is I did try to read it, I believe. Oh yeah, I remember when I tried to read it. So actually I tried to read it almost a year ago. I was doing a video of doing like Goodreads hit books so far. Let me actually do this, yeah. I was doing a video of reading Goodreads hit books so far, and that video never got made because that turned into a reading slump for me. But the plan was to do, since there was only like 2 romantasies, and one of them was of course Sarah J Maas. This was the only other one on the list in 2024. I figured let's read this alongside the other contemporary romances and do that video. And I do have to confess that it was a little bit of a slog to get through, and I wasn't really into it that much, but that might have been my reading slump. So I am planning on reading this book whenever the sequel comes out. Same goes for Quicksilver. I got this book because I was convinced, and so many people talked about it and raved about it, that it was gonna make it into like BookTube's favorite romances of 2024, and I was gonna have to read it for that. So I pre-bought some books so that I could read them as soon as my list was done. So I of course didn't read it because it is a giant book. It is over 600 pages, so I wasn't gonna read it as an extra bonus since it is such a big book. So same with When the Moon Hatched. I'm gonna read this whenever the sequel comes out and read both of them in the same video. This is about a guy named Kingfisher and a girl who opens a gateway between realms, and she and Kingfisher have to work together. I really don't know what this book is about too much, but I've heard amazing things about it. A lot of people do seem to love it. Even not romantasy lovers, like more fantasy lovers, do seem to enjoy this. So it's not just heavy romantasy lovers, but I am excited to read this. I was rooting for this book to make it because I was very excited to read it, but the only thing I don't like is this. Like, what is this? This cover would have been great if it wasn't for like this, I don't know, it just doesn't look good. Anyway, so I will not get to this for a while, but I am planning on reading it once the sequel comes out. Next is a duology I have read, and it's the Crimson Moth duology. So these are the UK editions. So in the UK, the Crimson Moth, the first book is called The Crimson Moth. I know in the US it's called Heartless Hunter. I read The Crimson Moth for that video I keep talking about, BookTube's favorite romances, so I'm sure I'll have it linked for you. And this I read recently, so I really enjoyed these 2 books. Basically, you follow the Crimson Moth, her name is Wren, and you follow a witch hunter named Gideon, who is looking for her and trying to kill her. This is a world where witches are being hunted. So the witches have always been in power in this country, but 2 years ago a rebellion killed the witch queens, and ever since then they have hunted down witches, and Gideon is one of those witch hunters. And Ren has been secretly saving these witches as the Crimson Moth, but she has an alias. Like, the people know her as this aristocrat girl who turned in her grandmother for witchcraft so that she wouldn't be on the witch hunter's radar. They are connected to each other through Gideon's brother because he is Ren's best friend. Ren is trying to seduce Gideon so that she can save her witch friends, and Gideon is trying to seduce Ren because he thinks she's the Crimson Moth. Oh, I'm sorry. Her name is not Ren, her name is Rune. Rune, I'm sorry. So yeah, it's their romance. And this is like the continuation of their story. I thoroughly enjoyed these books. I believe I gave Crimson Moth 5 stars and The Rebel Witch 4.5 stars. Very, I think this is a solid romantasy. I believe it's technically young adult, but I wasn't missing the spice really. They have sex, but it's not that explicit. Great series, and I would highly recommend it. One of the other ones I read for that Reading BookTube's favorite romances was Spark of the Everflame. This one I gave 4 stars, and I haven't really continued on with the series yet because this I think was my least favorite of the books I read. And the last book, or like the 4th book, keeps getting pushed back, so I'm fine with waiting. This book you follow DM, and in this book you have mortals and descendants, and descendants are basically descended from gods and humans getting together. And descendants are stronger, their skin is impenetrable, and they have silver eyes or different colored eyes, whereas mortals only have brown eyes. And DM has interesting colored eyes, so people assume that she's a descendant, but she knows that she's not. But there's something about her, and her mother has disappeared a couple months ago, and now DM has an unexpected opportunity to enter the dark world of descended royalty, and there she meets this descendant named Luther. And this very much feels like a setup book, and I've heard from a lot of people who love this series that the sequels are much better. I enjoyed it, but DM was sometimes annoying me. I thought she was sometimes made some stupid decisions, but I did enjoy it, and I am looking forward to reading the rest of the series. Next, I got an entire trilogy, and it's the Powerless trilogy by Lauren Roberts. So once again, this one I read for Say It With Me, BookTube's favorite romances of 2024. And I believe I read it, I read it on Everend, and I did buy the paperback, but then I saw these beautiful special editions, so I got them. Basically, the dust jackets have some art on them. So let me just show you the first one. So I did enjoy Powerless enough to get these editions. Oh, and this is what it looks like under the dust jacket. So beautiful editions, really. So this, you follow a world where once again you have 2 different, I'll just hold up Powerless. Oh, let me actually show you. Reckless and Fearless just came out. So Powerless is this world where people have, the ruling people have power, and this king has decreed that people who are born ordinary, so people who don't have powers, they need to be hunted down or banished, but banishment really means a death sentence. Payton has been taught by her father to pretend that she has powers. Basically, she pretends that she is psychic, but really she just pays very close attention to people and their reactions, and therefore when she, sort of like a body language expert, I guess, so that when she actually says something, it seems like she can read their minds when really she cannot. And because she saves one of the princes, she gets entered into the purging trials, basically a Hunger Games-like competition where these elites fight to the death in order to win, to win favor, I guess. So it's not necessarily like the Hunger Games where there's only going to be one victor and the rest dies, but it is very brutal, and these people are very powerful, especially for Payton, who is an ordinary. Basically, it's known that it's really, this year, it's going to be to showcase Kai's power, the prince she saved, and this has a love triangle between her and the crown prince and Kai. And I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars because it does feel like, for me, like she just took some of the things she loved most about other beloved series and crammed it in here. So yes, it does feel like a regurgitation of things I've already read, and I felt like some things were just overkill. Basically all the tropes most people love are in here, which while reading it I did enjoy, but in hindsight it doesn't feel that original. But she did execute it very well, and I did enjoy my time, and I did buy the special editions for a reason. And I think the Fearless one is gorgeous. Look how beautiful. Let me actually see. I don't think this spoils anything. This is under the dust jacket, or the other side of the dust jacket, and this is the book itself. Beautiful. So far I don't have any set plans to continue on with this series, but I am excited to. And the last one I read for my Reading BookTube's Favorite Romances video is One Dark Window, and I also got Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillick. This, to me, like, now I know I put it in the Romantasy category. To me, this really doesn't feel like a Romantasy. It feels like a fantasy with a romance side plot. I think the story would stay the same if the romance was removed. So in this book, you follow Elspeth, and in this world, you once again, this is a magical land. And in this case, unlike the Powerless trilogy, the people who get hunted down and executed basically are people with powers, because the only legal way to use magic in this book is through the Providence cards. There are 79 of them, I believe. If you hold the card, that will grant you magic, and there's 12 different types of cards, and it varies on how many of those cards are in existence, but there's one that only has been made once, and it's this one, the Twin Elders card. Basically in this book, people can sell their cards, they can trade them, they can steal them, of course. And if you have powers without those cards, then you get executed, because with those cards and with people who have magic without the cards, magic has a severe consequence, which I like that. I always like in books when there's magic, where magic has a cost. So basically with the cards, there are different types of consequences. Like each card has a different consequence for using it too much. And for people, basically the consequence is you going mad, which is why the king justifies the execution of those people. And Elspeth has magic. She has this being inside her head that keeps talking to her. That kind of grants her abilities as well. She ends up in contact with the king's cousin, or nephew, sorry, the king's nephew, who is determined to get all these cards because he doesn't agree with his uncle doing what he's doing. And in this world, there's this mist that keeps getting more land. And if you get a set of these cards, then you can remove that mist, and the king wants that. But so basically the king and the nephew are battling it out for whoever can get a set the fastest, but the king doesn't know that. So I did really enjoy it. I love her writing style. The plan was to read this one pretty quickly after reading this one, but I got into a reading slump, so I haven't read this one yet. Yeah, a beautiful story. I think I gave One Dark Window 5 stars. I think it was my favorite I read in that vlog, maybe. Phantasma and Enchantra, I did a reading vlog for, so I'll leave that linked for you. Basically, Phantasma, you follow Ophelia, who is a necromancer, and when her sister disappears, and she finds out that her sister entered into the Phantasma games, or Phantasma, she goes after her. Basically, Phantasma is this competition where you have to go through the 9 levels of hell, or like the competition, there's 9 trials, each relating to the 9 levels of hell. And there she meets Blackwell, and it's basically their romance and her trying to find her sister, but also finding out about her own past. And Enchantra, you follow Ophelia's sister, Genevieve, and she goes to Italy because her mother, who passed in like the first chapters of this book, was invited by a good friend of hers, and Vivi really wants to find out more things about her mom. She feels like her mom was mysterious and held a lot of secrets, so she goes there. And there's this mysterious guy, Rowan, who tells her that she's not allowed to enter, but she enters anyway. And when she gets there, she finds out that it's another competition there but this time it's between the Silver siblings. They have to fight each other to the death, and whoever dies has to spend a year in hell. But there's this loophole where if she gets married to one of them, the married pair get to work together, and if they win, then they are freed from this bargain that their father made for his children. And it's their romance. I gave this one 3 stars. I gave this one 5 stars. This was definitely my favorite. If you want to know more of my in-depth thoughts, check out my reading vlog. Got Cross, and it's A Rebel Without Claws. So this is the Next Generation series to her Stay Spell series, which I read those and really enjoyed them. And this one has already come out in a, like, if I wasn't in my reading slump, I probably would have already read it, but I haven't yet. So this one, you follow Evie and Mateo's daughter, Celine, and you follow Ronan Reed, werewolf cage fighter. So she's an aura witch, and this is another witch werewolf pairing, which I really love those. Those were my favorites. No, not necessarily, but yeah, my favorite book in that series was the 3rd one, which was also a witch werewolf pairing. So I am very much looking forward to it. So far, this hasn't gotten a lot of reviews, but since I really loved their parent story and their parent series so much, I did buy it, and I really love the cover. And I am excited to read this one. And the last in the like fantastical category is Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue. So I already read this. I read this entire trilogy, but she recently got picked up by a traditional publisher, and I really want to support Harley. I really love this series. It is such a great series. So the sprayed edges are beautiful. And basically in this book, you follow, it's a demon and a human. So you follow Ray, and she's always been interested in the supernatural, and she recently got back to the town where she grew up in, and she gets befriended by this brother and a sister, and she runs into a demon named Leon, and it's their romance. There's something going on with this town where there's a cult who is trying to sacrifice founding family members, and Ray is one of them, so she is getting hunted down. I really enjoyed this trilogy in general. One thing I do have to say about this trilogy is all the books take place around the same time, so there is a why is that such a hard word for me to say? Stuff gets repeated a lot, so I wouldn't recommend you binge this trilogy, but I would say read them, but space them out. I really enjoyed it. Harley LaRue writes very hot stories that I do enjoy. Yeah, I'm glad I own it. I think I'm gonna be collecting this trilogy once it comes out. Now for the contemporary romances. I have a bunch of Elsie Silvers, 4 actually, that I have hauled. The first one is Wild Eyes. This one I read last year. It came out in one of my reading slumps, so I didn't read it when it came out, but I read it in December. Really enjoyed it. I believe this is one of my favorite Elsie Silvers. This book, you follow country singer Skylar Stone and Weston, who is Rosie's sister, or Rosie's brother from the first book. And Skylar is in town to record in Ford's new studio, which you read all about that in the first book. Weston is one of her biggest fans, but they don't really get off on the right foot when she wants to take a picture with a bear, and he saves her from that, but he's not really being too nice about it. And while she's recording, she and Weston get closer, and she actually lives, because Ford's recording studio is also supposed to have like cabins for the artist to stay there, but since she showed up without notice, those buildings have not been built yet, so she has to stay in Weston's guest house, and they get closer. Weston is a single dad with 2 beautiful kids who Skylar also gets close to, and I really loved it. It was beautiful. And these 3 I got. Well, first of all, Wild Side came out, but I went to an Elsie Silver signing, which I'll leave the vlog where I went to that signing linked for you, but I got them signed. So this one, this is not personalized. She signed them beforehand, and the event was actually just talking to her and taking pictures, but I am happy that I got these signed. So my plan was to only get this because the only way to meet her is if you bought one of the books. So since this one was the one that had recently come out, I bought this one. But when I got there were other signed books there, and technically I didn't need these, but I got them anyway because they were signed. So I got a signed copy of Flawless, which I already own this one, but it's okay. Maybe I'll just give away my original copy. And then a photo finish. I told myself I wasn't gonna get these new editions because I prefer the indie editions with the people on the cover, but I just couldn't resist. So this is the one I got photo finished because so far this seems to be a lot of people's favorites, and also I think it's going to be mine too because this is another Eaton sibling. It's Violet's book, and I really love Chestnut Springs. I love the Eatons. I love Harvey. So I figured I do think this is going to be my favorite in the series as well. And if not, hey ho, that's fine. So now I have a book in each of her series signed. So happy about that. Then I got Wild and Wrangled. This one I might return because it's a bit damaged, but we'll see. This is the 4th book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. So I got the other 2 as well. So I owned, let me see if it tells me. So I already owned Swift and Saddled, and then I still needed to buy Done and Dusted, Lost and Lassoed, and Wild and Wrangled. There was a sale, so I ordered this one, and the other 2 are still coming in the mail. This is Camille and Dusty's book. This is a second chance romance. They used to be together in high school, and then he moved away. Since then she got together with somebody else, had a daughter with somebody else, but now he's back, and this is their second chance romance. I didn't really love Done and Dusted, but when I read that book, I was very excited to read, especially Lost and Lassoed and this book. This one like the title wasn't released yet, but I was interested in Camille's book and Dusty, so I am excited to read this one. Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This one I read in that vlog where I'm meeting Elsie Silver. This is Ali's newest release, and this is her first sports romance, I believe. So this, I'm sure a lot of you already know what this is about. I got the one with I wasn't really the biggest fan of this one. I gave it 3 stars. You follow Scarlett and Lucas, and they, through circumstances, find out that they're both into BDSM. He's dominant, she's submissive. So they end up deciding to have a no strings sexual relationship where they can explore their kinks. This was fine. I enjoyed it more than the release before this one, but I just felt like this romance got bogged down by everything else that happened in the story, and I felt like this was marketed as being so kinky. And yes, I get it, it's a traditional romance, and yes, a traditionally published romance, and yes, this technically is her kinkiest book so far, but especially if I compare it to another traditionally published romance in Butcher and Blackbird, that was way kinkier. So I don't know, it failed on the romance part, but also on the sex part, so I was a little bit disappointed, but I do understand why other people really loved it. It just wasn't my favorite. Then I got Pucked. I already owned the indie version, but this one got released with the sprayed edges, and Pucked was one of my favorite books I read last year, so I just got this one. So of course I already read this one. This is a older hockey romance. It was published in 2015. You follow Alex, Waters, and Violet. So Alex is a hockey player. He's the captain of the team, and Violet's stepbrother is also on the team, so that's where they meet. She goes to see a game of her stepbrothers, and she sees Alex, thinks he's attractive, but she doesn't really want to date hockey players. She thinks they're shallow and dumb. But when she actually has a conversation with Alex, she realizes he's smarter than most hockey players she knows. So they end up having a one-night stand. She thinks they're gonna leave it at that, but he becomes intrigued by her because she's very funny. She's a hilarious character, and he's just obsessed from the jump. So he wants to pursue it further. She really doesn't, and he kind of stalks her a little bit, kind of insists on, he really tries to get her to go out with him anyway. And I really enjoyed it. I really loved Alex. He was I was endeared to him so much. I just love how much he wanted her, and he was very clear about that. He's also the consent king. The way he asked for consent every step of the way, and the sexy way he did that, I just really loved him. So this was actually a book that I gave 4.5 stars initially, but I just could not stop thinking about these 2 because I also really loved Violet. So I kept thinking about them. So I ended up changing my rating to 5 stars, and this ended up being one of my favorite books I read last year. So I'm really glad I own it. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I did a review for this one. I said all there is to say in that review. I gave this book 3 stars. It was not really my favorite. I felt like all the other stuff in this book took over the romance, and I didn't really believe in that romance. You follow Xavier and Samantha, and Xavier, aka Reset from Akatar's twin brother. I'm not saying that this was mentioned like 5 times in the first couple of chapters. Him and Samantha, so he's a vet. She goes there for a stray kitten, and he's kind of being rude to her. And when they see each other a second time, he ends up asking her out. They have this magical first date, but then at the end of the date, he finds out that she's leaving for California and staying there because her mother has dementia. She thinks, just forget about me. This is never gonna work. I don't know when I'm gonna get back, because her mother has dementia, but she's also very young, her mother. So like there is a high probability that her mother could live with this disease for decades. But Xavier really doesn't want to do that. So he wants them to try and make this long distance relationship work. So they do that, and this is their romance. I felt like, understandably, the amnesia part took over this story, which makes sense, obviously, because if somebody, even though I'm a psychologist myself, I keep switching dementia and amnesia. She has dementia. So I get it. If your parent has dementia, that pretty much takes over your life. But I felt like there was just too many bad things that happened to a main character, and also extra bad things that had nothing to do with the dementia, that made me so frustrated. And she didn't put enough effort to really convince me that this relationship was worth it. Was worth putting this much effort in, that one character almost literally died trying to sustain this relationship. So in that case, I just really didn't believe in this romance. This really didn't feel like a romance to me. It felt like only Samantha's story, which is fine, but I always liked it. I only read 3 other books, but in her 3 other books, I love the way she straddles the line of romance being a big part of it, but also all the other things. And this book, it felt like all the other things took over. So therefore, this wasn't my favorite. Then Phantom by H.D. Carlton. This is a prequel to her Cat and Mouse duet, and I don't think you can read this one without having read the Cat and Mouse duet, which I did. I gave this book 3 stars. It was fine. You follow Gigi, and her husband is a dick. So he made some bad decision. He was not really a good guy. He sexually assaults her too. So when the husband gets on the mafia's radar, so this takes place in 1945, Ronaldo is sent out to basically keep an eye out for the husband. And when he's doing that, he becomes intrigued with Gigi. And this is basically their cheating romance. I was fine with the cheating, but I just didn't really believe in this romance at all. If you want to know more of my in-depth thoughts, check out my review for this book. It was fine, but I don't think this will do anything for you if you've not read the Cat and Mouse duet. Kiss the Villain by Rena Kent. Once again, I did a review for this book. So this is the first book in her spin-off series from the Legacy of Gods. This is MM romance between Caden and Gareth. So this is a very dark romance. There's a lot of non-con, dub-con in this book, so keep that in mind. Since this is a spin-off, you can read this without having read The Legacy of Gods. So this is the indie published version. This series did get picked up. So I do think, because that was the case for God of Malice, I do think they will change the first sex scene between them. I enjoyed this, but I do prefer a lot of other books that I read by her. But I am really excited to read the second book in the series. So yeah, if you want to know more of my in-depth thoughts, check out my review I did for this book. Enigma by Runix. Once again, I did a review for this book. This is my first Runix, and I was a bit disappointed, but I am really excited to read her other books. So this is a dark academia between Salem and Kaz. And Salem is going to Mortimer University, which is this prestigious school that only a few can enter, mostly legacies, and Salem is a legacy, and if not, then you can get like a scholarship or something. Salem is there to investigate her sister's suicide. She doesn't believe her sister committed suicide, and while she's doing that, she gets closer to Kaz, who also has his own investigation going on, and it's their romance. I really didn't think she did a good job with the romance. I also don't think she did a good job with the mystery in this book. So yeah, if you want to know more of my in-depth thoughts, check out my review. I also don't really love this cover. I prefer the US cover over this one, which I'll put a picture up here. but this was the only one I could get my hands on, so here we are. And the last dark romance is Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. This one I'm going to be reading right before the sequel comes out. This is a stalker romance. She is kind of obsessed with this masked man online, and then he becomes intrigued with her and starts stalking her, and she likes it. This was very hyped last year, so I am excited to read this one. Now for the not romances, the next Spy Family volumes, the 11th one and the 12th one. I haven't read these ones yet. I am currently watching the anime, slowly watching it, because I'm kind of savoring it. So I don't know if I want to reread. So I think I'm going to read these ones after I finish the anime. So I think I'm going to be rereading the novels that have not been adapted yet, and then read these two as well. Spy Family is one of my favorite things of all time. So Anya just has my entire heart and soul. It's just right now I'm consumed by the anime, and then once I finish that, I will be reading these two. Then I got Bookshops and Bone Dust. I haven't read Legends and Lattes yet, but I have a feeling this hardcover is gonna be removed soon. So because I really enjoy these, since the original indie cover is in the book as well. So I do enjoy these editions. So this series, you follow this orc named Viv, and this is basically a prequel to Legends and Latte. So you see her when she spent time at this bookshop. So I've heard so many good things about this series in general, so I will read them. I just don't have any set plans. And then last but most certainly not least is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the latest book in the Hunger Games series. This is Haymitch's story. I read this in the same vlog I read Deep End. So yeah, there's not much I can really tell about this book. I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it. The only thing is I just want Suzanne to write something other, some new thing that is not set in the Hunger Games universe. I just really want to see her expand. But I don't think she's gonna do that. I did enjoy seeing Haymitch's story, but I just don't think we learned a lot of new things. And I did feel some things were definitely fan servicey, but I did read it. I did buy it, I guess. So that was my book haul. I'm kind of tired of talking now. So I know the synopses got shorter and shorter the further I went in. So if you want to know more information about any of these books, ask me in the comments and I'll answer you. I'd also really love to know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts were. If you're down there, leave me a skull emoji for Lights Out. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did, and thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.